Hi guys, today I wanted to talk about the fun topic of morality because, who doesn't love talking about that? It's a big topic in the deconstruction space and obviously a big debate between atheists and theists. And I wanted to explain why my personal opinion is that subjective morality is better than the Christian God's morality. And I'm going to explain that. One thing I've noticed is that when we talk about morality, subjective versus objective morality, which I don't think their morality is objective, but we'll get there. People seem very, very uncomfortable with this idea that morals are subjective and there aren't moral absolutes. That, to me, it feels like that is the driver of the entire conversation usually. And it's understandable to me because, again, I say this all the time, but religion offers people this very simple worldview of this black and white world, this bad, this good, and it just simplifies everything. It's easier. So I understand why when someone learns about subjective morality, it feels so weird and foreign and not right. Especially if you were raised in Christianity that basically tells you there's only one right way to do morality, and that is through God. It is understandable to me that the world is easier to understand if it is painted in black and white instead of shades of gray. Like I said, there isn't a lot of considering, pondering to be done when it comes to what's moral. What do we think is moral? What do we think is immoral? Nuance and morality can feel uncomfortable, confusing, and again, I can understand that. But I don't think that just because it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, it means it isn't true. We do not have proof that morality comes from any outside source besides us. That's the truth of the matter, is that we don't have proof of morality coming from anywhere else. We have created morality, and that's all we have proof for. So that's what I assume, because we don't have proof for anything else. And it's interesting because when I say this, a lot of Christians will say, well, God actually wrote a moral law or wrote morals in your heart. So all of those good morals you have, they're actually attributed to God. But they just say that. There's no proof to back up what they're saying. So I'm just not sure why they expect me to assume that is true. Why would I do that? Again, I think objective morality can have a stronger appeal than subjective morality. Because who doesn't want certainty? Who doesn't want something to be clear? Many people do. It can feel weird to say out loud that things are not inherently good or evil. Instead, we determine those things with the morality systems we create as human beings. And then a lot of questions come up like, whose version of right and wrong are correct? Whose are incorrect? For example, I say murder is wrong. Somebody else says murder is right. Who is correct? Christians often ask me this, but I don't think there's a correct or incorrect answer. They typically, when we go through this conversation, that's one of the first things they bring up. Well, what if someone says murder is moral? Then who is correct? But again, they're already assuming that my morality is objective, and I've already said they're not. So this question only applies to people who have objective morality. That question doesn't apply to my morality. The bigger question for me is what kind of society do we want to construct and what rules best allow humans to live together is the question I ask myself. I believe humans develop morality because it benefits our species. It benefits us when it comes to survival, when it comes to us living happier and healthier lives. So then typically I'm met with, oh, murder being wrong is only your opinion, which the answer is yes. I cannot demonstrate that murder is immoral outside of our human minds deciding that it's immoral, and neither can they. So in that sense, yes, but it's not as meaningless as, I prefer vanilla ice cream over chocolate. I'm against murders because I value human life. I want suffering to be reduced. I value autonomy, etc., as do many humans, since it benefits our species and way of life. It benefits us all, typically. And typically Christians will say something like, well, what if another group of people say they want a society where murder is legal? You can murder whoever you want. Who are you to say it's wrong? But it's not really about me saying something is objectively wrong or right, although obviously we use that language based on our own subjective morality. It's about why I think a society that doesn't let you murder whoever you want is a more ideal society to live in and more sustainable to our species. That's why I would argue in favor of it. As would a lot of people, I imagine. A lot of people don't want to live in a society where you can go around and murder whoever you want, because then you're also in danger of being murdered. Or you care about other people and you don't want to see them get murdered. It positively benefits a lot of people. A lot of people would like to live in the society where you can't murder whoever you want, versus the one where you can murder whoever you want and it's not against the law. No one's trying to stop you or no one's trying to catch you for murdering somebody. This isn't about arguing who is objectively morally right or wrong. This is, again, about why I think this is a preferred way of living. Why I think it benefits a lot of society. Obviously, there can be more detailed things about this. This is a very generalized conversation about morality. But then typically, again, Christians will say, well, what if I don't care about any of that? What if murdering random people makes me happy? That's what makes me the most happy. And they expect me to say something like, well, then you're wrong. But that isn't my answer. My answer is, that's okay. Not really, but you know what I mean. That's your choice. But if you want to live that way, you'll either end up in prison or cast out of society. Mostly in prison, because most societies aren't going to let you murder whoever you want. And so it's not about you being right or wrong. It's a fact that you're not going to be able to survive in this society if that is what you do, murder whoever you want. But again, I feel like this is a moment where they try to have this gotcha moment of, what if I don't care? What if I like murdering people? But I don't see how that's any different than someone saying, okay, I don't care about God's morals, so I'm going to do whatever I want. And then someone saying, well, if you do that, you're going to go to hell. And them saying, I don't care. I don't care about hell. I don't care about punishments. In subjective morality and objective morality, you can't force someone to care about the morality. That's just how it is. You can't, to my knowledge, you can't force someone to care. So I'm not sure if they think that through whenever they're having that conversation with me, but either way, whether it's subjective or objective, you can't really force someone to care if they don't want to care. My entire point is that morality doesn't need to exist independently of human beings for it to be very important to our species. It's obviously very beneficial for us. That's really the start and end of my thoughts on morality. I mean, obviously there's way more conversations to be had, but that's the gist. I am not concerned with being right. I'm concerned with, how these things benefit us as a species. And a lot of people have this common interest, right? Again, it benefits them too, to live in a society where we're not just murdering each other and we're allowed to do that or whatever. And again, I feel like people are so uncomfortable with this idea that us humans created morality, but again, that's all we have proof for. I get that it's weird to a lot of people who grew up in Christianity to say there's not things that are inherently evil or inherently good. But we can still measure things in an objective way where we know this thing causes objective harm, therefore we shouldn't do it. If we care about other human beings, if we care about suffering upon other beings, if we care about empathy. And if you don't care about empathy, if you don't care about other people, no one can force you to care about it. Just like you can't force somebody to care about God's morality. Just like you can't force someone to care if they're going to hell or not. But I don't need to believe that the universe or some outside source cares about humans' well-being to care about humans' well-being. Like, I don't need a outer source to say human life is inherently good for me to care about human life. I do. I don't believe in God, and I still care about other human beings. And again, this is typically when Christians tell me, oh, well, that's only possible because God actually put that into your heart. Again, there's no proof for that, so there's no reason for me to assume. I have noticed that in the beginning of these conversations where I say I reject objective morality, they still try to argue with me that I don't have objective morality, which, yeah, I I don't have objective morality, which I say all the time, but I feel like they so often when I'm having these conversations, they find that as them having an automatic win. That objective morality is objectively better. And I want to explain why I don't think that is. Even though morality can have a lot of gray areas, maybe confusing, there may be a lot of nuance, I still think it's better than this objective Christian morality. First of all, again, I want to say I don't believe it's objective because they have no proof that what they're saying is objective in the first place, so it's just as subjective as mine. But let's pretend that it is objective, right? But anyways, I saw a video the other day where somebody was basically saying that atheist morality sucks, and their morality is better because it's grounded in something concrete, and that concrete thing is God. I find that interesting because God's morality is anything but concrete to me. Typically, I will ask Christians, is this thing absolutely wrong? This is this is a moral truth. This thing is objectively wrong, like killing kids. Is that objectively wrong? They say yes. And then you see God in the Bible command the killing of kids. And typically when you say this to Christians, or at least this is my experience, obviously there's a whole bunch of different answers Christians could give, but this is the answer I get the most. When I say that, they're like, well, God's the giver of life. He can do whatever he wants with his creations, which, pause really quick, I'm just not sure where we got that idea that just because you created something, like if I watched, let's say, a scientist create sentient human beings and he did terrible things to them, I wouldn't be like, he created them, he can do whatever he wants with them. I would just think that's evil. Evil in the sense that it's bad. I think it's pretty bad. It causes a lot of suffering. So I just don't know why they say that as if that's some kind of fact, that if you create something sentient, you get to basically torture it and it's still good. It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyways, they come from that angle and then they say, I asked them, if God does this thing, is it good? Everything God does is good. So they'll say yes, typically. And so how is that morality concrete at all? All throughout the Bible, God is flipping his morality back and forth, where he'll just, he'll say something is absolutely wrong, or they interpret it as God saying something is absolutely wrong, but then he'll do it in the Bible or command it of other people. And all of a sudden, it's okay and it's morally good. That doesn't seem concrete to me in the slightest. And so another thought I had was, what if God commanded, let's pretend that, I was talking about the situation where God in the Bible commands the killing of babies or infants. Now let's pretend God commands the essaying of children. And would that all of a sudden be morally good? And a lot of people would tell me, well, God would never command that. Okay. Let's say God commanded that to bring new life into this world. And he commands these men to essay these children to bring new life into this world because he's the creator of life. Therefore, he can do what he wants. All of a sudden, that doesn't sound very good. And the answer I would typically get is, he wouldn't do that. It goes against his nature. Okay. Why doesn't killing infants also goes against his nature, right? Why is it okay for him to go against his nature with one thing and not the other? And how are you distinguishing which one he's willing to go against and which one he's not? It doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing to really say there, to my knowledge, because how is that any different than killing infants? And I've actually seen some of these conversations played out, and sometimes Christians will bite the bullet and say, well, yeah, then it would be good. This is the entire problem I have with Christian morality, though, is because God can make any horrific act good just because he does it or commands it. It could be anything, even SA, like I said. The thing that scares me is if somebody believes God is saying something, they could completely go against all their human nature and morality and just do something and it automatically be good because God commanded it. Let's take Abraham and Isaac, for example. He told Abraham to, sacrifice his son. And typically in any other context, that people would say it's morally wrong, it's terrible. But because God asked him to do it, Abraham is seen as this honorable, faithful guy who trusts in God, and it's very romanticized. Like, Abraham's an amazing guy because, he was willing to basically do something immoral for God, but it's moral because it's for God. It's very strange. And this type of religious morality gets people to celebrate something that's pretty horrific. And that kind of stuff scares me, if I'm being honest, because I have seen this as a trend where then kids ask their parents, and I know a lot of kids think this when they hear the Abraham and Isaac story, like, would my parents do this if God asked them to? I know I had that thought, but I've seen where kids actually ask their parents this, and the parents like bite the bullet and say, yes, I would do that. That's scary. That's horrifying, because at that point, God could ask you to do anything. And against all of your better judgments, against your morality, against your human nature, you would do it and just call it good because God told you to. Is that not horrifying to anybody else? That feels pretty horrifying to me. I know it's horrifying to other people, but I don't think they realize how horrifying that actually is. Because according to them, when God commands the slaughtering of infants, that should be celebrated because it's good. All of a sudden, we're celebrating the slaughtering of infants just because God says so. That's how not concrete this morality seems to me. It seems like anything but it being concrete. In fact, in situations, God is basically convincing people to turn off their humanity to do certain things he asked. And a lot of times when I've asked Christians the same question of, if God told you to kill your kids, would you kill them? They say God would never ask that, which I have no idea where they get that from, because God asks people to do stuff like that in the Bible all the time, to kill other people. So why on earth are we painting this picture like God would never do that? God would never ask that of me, because obviously he's asked other people to do horrific things in the Bible, like killing infants. So why on earth would he be above asking you to kill your child? I think it probably, I feel like that question probably makes a lot of Christians uncomfortable, because that's a scary thought, right? That if your God suddenly asked you to kill your child, you would do it, and you would have to consider it good because God told you to do it. The story of Abraham and Isaac always being celebrated and like romanticized always creeped me out. It's scary. But that's what I find so scary about this morality system. And to me, not that it really matters, but to me, that's better than subjective morality is better than that. All of a sudden being told you have to kill your child, and then it would all of a sudden be considered good. I'd rather have subjective morality over that, personally. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts altogether. That's why I know a lot of times Christians feel like they have the upper hand with morality because they feel like it's black and white, and that's more structured than subjective morality. But again, I don't even think it's objective in the first place. But number two, I find subjective morality to be better than God in the Bible commanding people to kill infants, and then all of a sudden that moral absolute of that thing being bad, all of a sudden it turns good because God commands it. And again, he could command something. I mean, I don't really know if it's even more horrific than killing kids, but the SA thing that I talked about, that situation, I need a Christian to explain to me how that would be any different. Because when I have this conversation, they seem like they won't concede on that, but they'll concede on kids getting killed is good because God, it's just, to me, it's an absolute mind fuck, honestly. But yeah, that's why Not that it matters, but that's why I think subjective morality is better than this morality God created, because it's pretty insane. And if it requires people to completely turn off their humanity at the drop of a hat, that's a bit horrifying to me. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, your views on morality. One thing that's really changed for me since leaving religion is it's really nice to be able to gain new information and then apply it to my morality. I always found it to be so weird. In the Christian worldview, typically, you believe something is right, you believe something is wrong, and you have the same moral opinions your entire life. You can't really learn anything new that'll change your morality. And I find the older I got, the more I'm like, wow, that's weird and crazy and not realistic. I feel like it's so, and I know a lot of people, view this automatically, or view it this way automatically, of it just stunts, it feels like it stunts growth in so many different areas. Obviously Christians can grow in different ways, but like this is an example. As a Christian, I couldn't feel like I could, learn more information and then apply it to my morality. I had to keep the same views the whole way through life, no matter what different experiences I had, no matter what information I learned. And that is silly to me. That doesn't make sense. And that's my other issue with objective morality, is there's really no room for growth, it feels like. Subjective morality is nice in the way where, as we evolve as a species, hopefully we will keep progressing and progressing to build a better world for people. Obviously, that's a hard thing to say right now because of how backwards things are going, but I do have faith that it will get better. I do think this is a major setback. I think it will get better. I hope that the human race continues to improve. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you're taking care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.